Hey guys, welcome back to Games of War. The inspiration for today's video comes from something I've been doing on my Sundays. Sunday's a nice relaxing day for myself and my family. So what I do is come up to the game room, I'll pick a system, whether it's Genesis, Super Nintendo, Saturn, 3DO, PS2. I'll pick out a system and I'll grab a stack of games and I'll sit down and spend the afternoon just going back and reliving old memories, playing old favorites, and just really having a good time. And while doing this, I noticed there's a hell of a lot of games that never got sequels. Just got a release date, came out, people loved it, hated it, it was forgotten, and they've kind of been lost in this haze of endless amounts of video games coming out. So what this video is just going back and picking out some of the games that I really liked that never got sequels. So hope you guys enjoy taking this trip down memory lane with me. As always, thank you for watching. Let's go. So a few weeks back, I busted out a stack of PS2 games, and one of the games that I just kept playing and playing and playing was Chaos Legion. And this took me back to when I first got the game when it came out back in, I think, late 2001, 2002, somewhere around that time. And that was the time that Devil May Cry hit and really changed everything for action games. Now back then, a lot of games used the static, pre-rendered backgrounds. You didn't have to worry about camera control, so developers were able to pack a ton of detail into these static screens. In most games, like Resident Evil, you'd explore these backgrounds, really slow-paced, kind of using the tank controls at the time. But when Devil May Cry hit, it used these pre-rendered static backgrounds, so they had tons of detail, but Dante was able to just move lightning quick through these screens. You could jump off the backgrounds, you could do crazy, flashy combos. It was an insane combination that, up until that time, hadn't been seen before. So Devil May Cry really changed the way action games were played. It packed the insane detail of the static backgrounds mixed with, fast-moving, high-concept, flashy gameplay. Now, Chaos Legion came out around the same time as Devil May Cry, maybe a little after. It even says in the back of the box here, if you love Devil May Cry, you'll love Chaos Legion. And unfortunately, I think that worked against the game. With a tagline like that, you're going to pop this game in, you're going to be expecting to do insane combos at high speeds right off the bat, and you're going to be disappointed right away. That's not the kind of game Chaos Legion is. They were trying to take that Devil May Cry appeal and sell this game, when actually this game should have been marketed as its own. This game is a very slow-paced, thinking man's game. Now you play as Sieg, and the main villain of this game, now this is just all from memory, was Victor Delacroix. And I thought that was an awesome name for a bad guy. And Sieg was like an Order of the Dark Knight's glyph, and I remember this Victor Delacroix blamed Sieg for the death of someone he loved, and kind of kicked into motion this whole thing where the world was ending. It was, typical Capcom, high fantasy, crazy storyline, but I really enjoyed it. I remember a couple of twists I thought were really cool, but the main draw of this game is the Legion. Now these are kind of supernatural, powerful entities that fight alongside you. And I remember they had awesome names like Guilt and Blasphemy, and they were all had these awesome names, and you could level these legions up, and there was different legions. Like there was swordsman legions where you could be surrounded by these demons that had swords, and you could order them to attack. You could make them fall back and defend you. Basically, these guys did your bidding and your fighting, and as a last resort, you would use Sieg's combos and use his defense abilities, but mainly it was the legions taking out all the enemies, and it did so in grand style. It was awesome controlling these supernatural entities. It was really cool leveling them up and watching them grow more powerful. You could eventually have like 5 guys surrounding you using swords. You had guys with claws. You had legion that could shoot arrows, legions that were bomb experts that would blow stuff up. And a lot of the enemies were weak to a certain legion, so a lot of strategy would come into play when deciding which legion to use. You could take out enemies faster using certain legion. And leveling them up all had really cool effects. You could make them much stronger. It was always exciting to get to the next level to see what new legion you'd get. And that was the bulk of the gameplay. It was relying on these overpowered legions to help you fight. The one thing that's like Devil May Cry is it was dark and gothic, and Sieg kind of looked like Dante a little bit, but that's where the similarities ended. This was a much more slow-paced, thinking man's game, and I haven't seen a game that used Legion like this since, and I think that Chaos Legion is a game that was very original at the time by Capcom, and it's a shame we never got a sequel. If you're into games that are more slow-paced, but have awesome combat and great use of abilities with RPG elements. Definitely check out Chaos Legion. It never got a sequel. I think it's one of Capcom's better games at the time for sure. Now on the Dreamcast, something completely different. I don't know that I necessarily call this a game. It was definitely sold as a game, and that is Seaman. And this came out back in 1999, I believe 2000. This was a very unique product. It was, basically at its core a virtual pet simulator where you would hatch a larva, and then the larva would eventually grow into this little fish-like creature. You drop them into the tank, and you'd come back to the game, which ran off of the Dreamcast internal clock, and each day you'd come check in, and he'd grow a little bit more. Eventually he would start talking. It came bundled with the Dreamcast microphone you'd plug into the controller, and each day you would watch this thing grow, and then he'd start talking. Some famous guy did the voice acting. I can't remember, Leonard Nimoy, I think it was. And the Seaman would start to say funny things. He would ask you your name. He'd remember your name. He'd remember your voice. And as each day went by, he'd start talking more and more and start saying funny things. And he'd ask you questions, and he'd remember stuff. And it was just a really crazy concept. And I remember being kind of blown away at the time by the stuff he would remember and the stuff he would just say out of the blue. And it was pretty crazy. And I remember a while back there was some talk that this was going to come out on 3DS and use the microphone and the touchscreen. Well, obviously it never happened, but I don't know if it fell apart or what happened. But Seaman is one of those novelty things where it's not really a game per se. You're not going to pop it in and play it for hours and be at the edge of your seat. But it's something you come back to on a daily basis and check in. And the eventual goal is to raise him from the larva to fish creature to be able to walk out of the tank and be a creature, I guess. I never made it that far. I remember mine always, I'd forget to feed him one day or something, and I'd come in and he'd be dead, or I never did grow Seaman to full maturity. So that's one of these things I'm going to have to do one of these times, is really finish this game. But I think this would be great in today's market. The technology's come a long way since then. Maybe put this on the Vita or the 3DS. I mean, you've got the touchscreen, you've got the microphone built in. I think it would lend itself really well, and it'd be cool to see what today's technology could do in terms of advancements and making this a more complete package. So if you are looking for something a little different, definitely check out Seaman. I'd love to see a sequel on this for sure. Continuing down the tradition of strange and quirky games that never got a sequel, this is Odama on the GameCube. And once again, this was packaged with the peripheral. It was a microphone that clipped onto the GameCube controller. And this mixes pinball with real-time strategy elements. It's not pinball like you think. The Odama is like a giant iron ball that rolls over troops and crushes them and kills troops in mass by the hundreds, by the thousands. And what you do in Odama is you have to manage keeping this ball moving, taking out troops, all the while your troops are carrying a bell and you must order them to advance. You use the ball to kill enemy troops and keep them from keeping your guys from advancing. I'm trying my best to explain this. As you issue voice commands, your troops will begin marching, carrying this bell through enemy territory. And it's up to you to use the ball to flatten your enemies, allowing you to safely make your way across the environment and deliver the bell to the other side. This game had me shouting, left, right, march forward, all these crazy commands. People in my house were looking at me like I was completely batshit insane, but I never had more fun with a pinball strategy type game. Probably it's only the type I've played is this game, but this was a lot of fun, man. I thought it was totally unique at the time. The gameplay was great. Now this game, I'll admit, it kind of looks like shit. The graphics are awful, but it's the gameplay that counts, right? And the voice commands worked great, and the Odama ball was awesome. This is just another totally unique game on the GameCube. This came out, I don't think it sold well, it wasn't very popular, but it was tons of fun to play. And once again, I think this would work great on the Vita or the 3DS because you've got the microphone and you've got the touchscreen, and you can play something like this in short bursts or lengthy sessions, doesn't matter. Odama is a fantastic game, and I would have loved to have seen a sequel come out for this on the GameCube, but even more so in today's age. I think it'd be really cool. Next up, we've got Urban Reign, and this game is so underrated, it is literally criminal. This was done by the Soul Calibur and Tekken teams. They kind of teamed up to work on this, and it is a single-player and multiplayer brawler with the depth of a fighting game. The Soul Calibur guys and the Tekken guys, they know how to make fighting games. Well, more so Soul Calibur. I've never been a Tekken fan. That's beside the point. This game is just insanely deep in terms of its fighting mechanics. Now, the way the game plays out is fairly shallow. It's single player, I think mission based. I think there's 100 missions, and you play as this guy Hawk, who is like the ultimate badass. It kind of reminds me of like a B Van Damme flick. You come into town and you're just gonna kick everybody's ass. Like everybody's ass in the town, you're gonna kick. They're all in gangs and it's just, laughable stuff. The writing's hilarious, but you're like the ultimate badass. And the way this game plays out, you'll get a little bit of dialogue before each mission. You're going to meet new people that are fighting for the good guys. You're going to team up with them. Some missions have you fighting by yourself. Some missions have you fighting with a partner, all computer controlled. Some missions have you breaking all the enemy's legs before you can move on. Some have you disarming all the enemies. There's different objectives, but most of the time it's just kicking ass. But where this game shines is in its gameplay. First of all, it runs at 60 frames per second, and this lends itself to one of the most smooth, feature-packed fighting systems of any fighting game. You can punch, you can do reversals, you can grapple enemies, you can throw them up in the air, catch them while they're in the air, slam them down. You can do like these submission holds and just this game you can run up walls and do backflips and grapple them after you jump off the wall. You can be fighting multiple enemies and with a certain button you can punch in front of you, punch behind you, punch back, finish it off with a spinning back kick. If there's two enemies in front of you, you can run up the enemies, do like a flying split kick and kick both of the enemies. I mean, there is options for literally every scenario you can think of, and it all is performed so intuitively with these controls. I've never felt such in control and so able to kick so much ass as in this game. And once you beat it, you unlock, like, every single character you beat in this game throughout the 100 missions, you can play as in the multiplayer. And it's kind of like a Smash, but not Smash, like a Power Stone game, but much more mild. You can play in all of the stages you unlocked. And it's a lot of fun to play as the multiplayer if you have somebody that knows what they're doing, knows how to do the combos and the reversals and all that. Because it's a really deep system. I mean, you can block any punch that's thrown at you. You can win matches without even throwing a single punch just by using the detailed reversal systems. This game is just insane. The fighting is buttery smooth, and the way you feel like a badass has not been matched since Urban Reign. I prayed for a sequel to come out for this. I would have loved to have seen something on the PS3 or 360 or even something now. I know it's not going to happen. Maybe it's a downloadable game, but I have never felt in such control and had this much fun whooping ass as in Urban Reign. This game is a true gem, and I would not get rid of it for the world. I just wish we'd get a sequel. The Sega Genesis. Man, I've talked about so many games on this system. I want to try to get a fresh game that you haven't heard me talk about yet. And I know I've done a series review on Road Rash, but I haven't talked about Skitchin. And Skitchin is from Electronic Arts, and it obviously runs off of the Road Rash engine. Very similar look to Road Rash. It's got the same kind of music. It's got Road Rash written all over it. However, Skitchin, you are on rollerblades, and you are flying down the highway roads, and you're grabbing on the back of cars, and you're punching and kicking people, and you are flying off ramps and doing tricks to impress the judges. This is a totally unique and fresh game. Never got a sequel, which is funny considering how many Road Rash games we've gotten, which I'd love to see a new Road Rash, by the way. But back to Skitchin. I think this game would look incredible on today's consoles. Imagine the rush of flying down pavement with cars whipping by you, reaching out for the car, grabbing onto the back of the car and hanging low and using that car to vault yourself forward and start skating again and punching and kicking people. I think this would work excellent as maybe like a downloadable game if they didn't want to take a chance on a full retail. But just imagine today's sense of speeds and the realism and how awesome that would lend itself to a game like Skitchin. So I hope you guys have enjoyed taking a look at this oddball list of games that never got sequels. I had some really great times playing these games back in the day, and it's really unfortunate we never got sequels. I want to say I hope you guys all have a fantastic holiday. Make sure to give if you can, and I hope you get everything you want for Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a happy New Year. Please remember that Games of War is absolutely nothing without you.